Hello.
Hey, is this Captain Joe Dion?
Captain Joe Dion here. How are you today?
On the line, we have Captain Joe Dion from the upcoming Discovery Channel series, Harpoon Hunters. Captain Dion, I have never, ever heard of this type of fishing, only if I was studying like ancient civilizations where they would spearfish, and I had no idea that it continued to this day. And is this something that your family did that you kind of like moved into, or was this something you discovered and you just found out you were good at and you just kept it going?
Yeah, so it's definitely an artisanal fishery. I mean, as a kid, I grew up somewhere in Marshfield, Mass, and I was a dock rat. So I'd pedal my bike down to the harbor and take any chance I could. I'd be on a boat or staring out at the ocean, wanted to be out there. And there was a group of elite fishermen back then, and as I got older, I got a chance to go out on these harpoon boats and learn the trade, and it's definitely been a passion of mine my whole life.
Now, just to explain to people quickly what it is, you really are using a harpoon, but it's also electrified, right?
Yeah, so these boats we're fishing on are they're basically inshore lobster boats, and we customize them with big tall towers off the top and pulpits off the front of them. And what we're doing is we're chasing Atlantic bluefin tuna that school up in sometimes 100 fish at a time. And during the month of June, they show up off our coastline and they're up on the surface. So we're sneaking up behind these fish and we're throwing an electrified harpoon at them. And then that dispatches the fish instantly so they don't have to suffer.
And you also have the help of a plane. Is that all the time or just some of the time?
It's a derby-type fishery, so we only have 70 metric tons out of the 2,300 metric tons that are available for United States, Canada, and Mexico. So we have a real small part of this quota. And if you're not catching and you're not efficient in being real productive on good weather days when we're able to find them like this, we're not doing good. So we use every chance we can. And the use of an airplane obviously helps production because he's covering vast acres of ocean. And some days he leaves out of New Bedford and he'll fly 50 miles in a different direction just to try to check areas. And hopefully by around noontime every day on a good harpoon day, we have found where the schools of fish are. And I'll take, being on the captain of the boat, we'll point in that direction and go full speed and pretty much putting a lot of wear and tear on that diesel motor to try to get to where we got to be.
Just to give people an image of how they're doing this. So if anyone who's ever seen Jaws, it's similar to what Quint was doing. So you go up a gangplank on the front of the boat, and there's a pulpit there. And then while Quint in the movie was using like a rifle to shoot his harpoon, you're doing it by hand. You're doing it old school. How did you practice something like that?
Anyone could hit a paper plate in front of them when they're on the pulpit.
Right.
The hard part is when to throw. You know, that's what really is. You're throwing a javelin, and these fish are 20 feet in front of me and 10 feet under the water, and my feet are 10 feet above the water. So I'm throwing the spear like 20, 30 feet away from the fish. And basically it's if they're staying in the same direction and not turning, you can hit them, but you got to lead them, and there's water. It just really takes experience. And the first year I did it, I missed a lot, and I still miss. Everyone misses, but that's what makes it the adrenaline rush so intense watching. And that the cool thing about this Discovery Channel show, Harpoon Hunters, is you're able to see drone footage, because as I'm coming up onto the school of fish, there's a drone over our head watching, and then above the drone there's an airplane that really communicates to me what I'm about to see. So it's intense for sure.
Have you ever had a moment where you got pulled over into the water by a fish, or there was a moment where, I don't know, you felt yourself in danger while doing this?
I've never been falling off the stand while the boat's moving forward, because that's, you know, you got to prey on the driver at that point. I'm the captain of the boat, and when we see fish, I run down and try to spear them. And my wheelman, or my driver, he stays up in the tower, and he's the one driving the boat up behind the fish. And we have to be really, really communicating well. And it's dangerous because if I fall in and we're going along at 10 knots, he'll have a hard time stopping that boat before the boat runs me over. So it's definitely not a safe job. The scariest thing is getting wrapped up in the bite. So sometimes if I hit the fish in the tail, or it doesn't zap them and the fish doesn't die. So now you have a 900-pound angry tuna fish swimming away. It's like trying to stop a freight train. So when that happens, you have to stay clear of we call it the rig, it's basically the harpoon, the zapper cable, the rope, and the buoy. And all that goes overboard at 50 miles an hour. So if you get caught up in that, you're a goner. I mean, you can't, because you don't have the electricity to stop the fish, and he's just swimming away, sounding down to the bottom of the ocean. So that's the dangerous part of the job. And sometimes you're fighting him too, because if the zapper doesn't work, or the shocker, you're fighting him by hand. So you're pulling him, he's pulling back, and it's really a battle. It's fun to watch.
That's insane. What's bluefin tuna are super valuable. What is the biggest catch that you've ever had personally?
Up over 1,000 pounds. I cut them, so I never really get the whole weight. So when we get the dressed fish that are close, 700 in the 700-800 pound range, that means dressed without the head, the tail, or the guts. You can imagine that's a big animal because it's a third of it's the head and tail and guts. So one thing is we need more people obviously eating bluefin and local caught bluefin, because the market the fishery and the biomass of fish has significantly increased over the last decade. We see more tuna fish now than we have in our whole lives. And when there's local fish buyers that have gotten innovative and started freezing and flash freezing minus 150 degrees. So because it's seasonal, right? So like we can catch these fish via harpoon or rod and reel about 6 months of the year up here in New England. So, the other 6 months they're not around because it's winter. But buyers have it's hard for the fish buyers or the sushi restaurants, because if they buy local, then half the time they can't buy local. So it's really important that the community kind of leans towards the local caught bluefin, because that helps price.
You are based out of Cape Cod, and being here in Worcester, I'm down there a couple of times every summer. And where are you based out of in Cape Cod?
My boat's in Green Harbor, which is the South Shore, just south of Situate, near Plymouth.
Oh, okay.
We basically all fish Stellwagen Bank and east of Stellwagen Bank, sometimes Cape Cod Bay. So it all depends on what we see in a given day. So like if the pilot takes off and we find bunches 50, 60 miles east of Boston, we're going there. It's the weather's different sometimes down south. Sometimes you'll have fog to the south and you'll have clear skies to the north. So we fish a little north.
It is a ballsy way to make a living after watching a bunch of video on this. So I'm looking forward to seeing this on the Discovery Channel. Harpoon Hunters, one of the captains, Captain Joe Dion, we've been speaking with here. Thank you for taking the time, and good luck. Good luck, sir. I mean, it really looks crazy. I mean, there's got to be easier. There's definitely easier ways to fish, but you guys are keeping up. It's like an art form what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's definitely an artisanal fishery, and it's passed down from generations. And like I said, it's the most humane way to target these fish. We're taking one fish out of the school, so one fish at a time. And in other parts of the world, they catch that same school of fish, and they net them up, and then they call it farms. But they're all freely swimming wild fish at one point. So it's pretty cool what we do, and enjoy the show because it's some amazing footage.
It is. It's incredible to watch. Captain Joe Dion from Harpoon Hunters. Thanks a lot for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.